Hello and welcome to the Film Focus Online podcast. I am your host, Elliot Lines, and on today's show, we're going to be discussing Wake Up, Dead Man, which is the latest instalment into the Knives Out franchise, and it's now streaming on Netflix. Plus, we're going to unravel the franchise up to this point. Before I bring in our guests, if you're watching on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button, and if you're listening to on your favourite podcast platform, hit that follow button. So, let's get into it. Joining me today to uncover these Knives Out mysteries is Film Focus Online writer Alex Gilston. How are we doing?
I am doing great. I am always absolutely ecstatic to talk about these films, so I'm very excited to get into it.
Awesome. Firstly, we had some sad news with the tragic passing of Hollywood director Rob Reiner, along with his wife. Reiner directed films such as When Harry Met Sally. He directed Spinal Tap, and most recently, the Spinal Tap 2. Sad loss for the industry, and our thoughts go out to his friends, family, and all that have been affected at this time. So yeah, sad news in Hollywood this week.
Yeah, I honestly can't believe it. I actually just watched Misery for the first time ever last week at the cinema, and it's just a phenomenal. I mean, literally all because I've seen people talking about that generational run of films where it's like Stand By Me, Princess Bride, Misery, When Harry Met Sally, and they're all they just seem like they're just so important to the history of Hollywood cinema.
Definitely.
And he is so important to the history of Hollywood cinema. I mean, When Harry Met Sally is the rom-com, and it's just the perfect film. And yeah, it's honestly just terrible news.
Not only his sort of director roles, like Wolf of Wall Street. I remember his character in there as Jordan Belfort's father, and one of my favourite characters in that film. It's just like you say, those historic films that he's directed, and these sort of moments that he's had in cinema. That it's sad news.
Talking about his acting roles as well, his role in New Girl as Jess's dad, absolutely, he's not in it much, but when he is in it, he has such an impact.
Yeah.
On the show and on the story. So, but yeah, it's just a major loss for Hollywood, and it's just so sad. Yeah,
definitely. Right, shall we get into the newest addition then to the Knives Out world, and that is Wake Up, Dead Man. This sees the return of Benoit Blanc once again. So, what did you think of it?
I loved it. I adored it. I watched it for the first time at London Film Festival. It was the first proper film I watched, and I was kind of bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. Wasn't 10 days in and completely emotionally and physically drained. And maybe that's why I loved it so. No, I'm joking. There's just something about these films. I mean, I've always loved Rian Johnson. I think he has got the filmmaker sauce. I just think there's something about the way that he constructs movies that is just really gets me. I am a staunch defender of The Last Jedi. I know not many people are. Actually, probably more people every day.
I think it's more coming your way now.
Yeah.
Now we're a few years down the line, I think a lot more people are coming that way, especially after Rise of Skywalker and what that did. I think people came to Last Jedi and thought, okay, maybe it's not as bad as we thought.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, also directed what is probably one of the most iconic episodes of Breaking Bad as well. So, he's kind of been in, doing things for a while. And then when Knives Out came out, I was just blown away. I mean, we'll talk more about the first one later on, but it's just a perfect film. People throw around masterpieces and perfect film quite a lot these days, but it genuinely is. But yeah, I think what I love so much about this one is that I think with every Knives Out film, it has something to say about the real world. And I think that's what's kind of so special about them, is that it can be this kind of this fun, thrilling detective mystery caper that's got such a kind of wonderful central character that we can kind of get behind, but it's always very prescient to current situations. And I feel as though
say, isn't it?
Yeah, even though the other two, Yeah, even though the other two are they do kind of similar things, this one it just feels more like it felt like when I was watching it, I felt kind of more thinking to myself like, wow, this is like a mirror. We're like, it is a mirror to kind of what is going on in the world right now, especially in America. And yeah, I mean, we'll talk more about that probably in a little bit, but yeah, that's kind of my initial thoughts. Just loved it.
Yeah, I'm very similar to you. These Knives Out films, massive fan of. I love the whodunit genre anyway, as it is the sort of mystery around trying to work out, trying to piece it together. It's like playing a game of Cluedo while you're watching the film. And I feel like the characters he brings into these films are they're so well established fairly early on, and I feel like he did that very well with Wake Up Dead Man, where he spends a good 45 minutes at the start establishing the world. The only connection these films have is Benoit Blanc. They'd have nothing else, and to bring in what we've got 5 or 6 central characters
Yeah, about that. Yeah.
here that you've got to learn everything about straight away. And I
Mm.
think he spends a good amount of time with them, and you kind of get an idea of what this world like. You've got Brolin as this almost satanic priest,
Yeah. Yeah.
but you can see why someone wants him to not be there anymore around this
And
cult
no, absolutely.
of
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just think what Rian Johnson does with these films, he does it so well. He did this exactly the same with Knives Out and same with Glass Onion. You've got so many characters, and these characters are enjoyable to be with, whether they're horrible or
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they're all very well rounded. I mean, one thing that I thought that because the thing is as well, because we're on the third film now, there's a worry that it's going to get to that point where it's kind of not, it doesn't feel fresh, or it feels like he's kind of retreading ground that he's already kind of explored. But this Wake Up Dead Man does something very different to the first two, I feel. In, like you were saying, it kind of does this setup. I mean, we see Benoit kind of briefly at the very beginning
Mhm.
of the film when he's sitting down to read. I assume spoilers are kind of vague.
Yeah, yeah,
Hopefully you've seen it. If you haven't, go and watch it and then come back and listen. So yeah, so briefly where we find out is him sitting down to read Father Judd's
mhm.
letter, kind of, I suppose, alibi kind of
Yeah,
big story thing. But then, like you say, for that kind of first 40-45 minutes, there is literally none of like he's not
none of
there.
them at all.
Um,
Well, I initially thought when that opening scene happened, I thought that was Father Judd asking him to come and sort of help.
yeah,
And that's
yeah,
not the case at all. We find out
no,
later on that actually it's, you know, a long way down the line of the investigation.
yeah, and I think that's what's so clever about it. And it
Mm,
was a risk as well because again, like you say, Benoit Blanc is the center of these films and has been for the first two of them.
mhm,
But we kind of go away from that in this. And again, when you're taking away the character that everybody is going into the film watching it for, you risk kind of people being like, oh well, when's he going to show up? Like, what? Where's the character that I've come to watch this film for? But that section at the beginning, the first act, so to speak, is so compellingly written and set up. And you get, like you said, you get to know each of these characters really, really well. And I think it benefits as well so much from Josh O'Connor
mhm.
because he's just
Yeah,
so
yeah.
talented and such a great actor, and he just brings so much kind of like pureness and
Mhm.
honesty to Father Judd that you kind of can't help but being drawn into it.
No, I
And
agree.
then when Benoit actually shows up, ironically enough, it literally feels like this kind of like moment that is drenched in faith and kind of like religion, where you have like this kind of epiphany, this big like
Mhm.
moment where you see him standing in the door, kind of shadowed
Yeah,
out, and it's him, and you're like, oh my god,
he's here, yeah.
yeah,
I
it's
don't
just
feel like the feel like the other 2 films relied on his character a lot more than this one. I think like you
mm,
said with Josh O'Connor, this one didn't feel like we needed him to show up until
yeah,
certain moments, whereas before you were kind of like, well, if Benoit's not in the scene, what's he doing? Whereas this one,
Mhm.
I felt like didn't need to. And I'm guessing we'll probably talk about this later on, but I'm guessing that's to further down the line, not have to rely on that central character as much so they can go hopefully further with it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think the it's just kind of that perfect balance of like we know when we need him, we know when we don't, and I think that's another thing. I don't want to like go too far into it, but I think that's what's so special about the ending as well,
Mm-hmm.
because there's like this whole build up of we're kind of getting into the game. We're getting in, and it's clear that this is what Benoit loves and enjoys. He loves the chase. He loves trying to find the answers, all the little details that then stitch together to be the
Mm-hmm.
big answer and the big
Mm-hmm.
epiphany at the end of the film. And we kind of get to that moment, and we even get a scene where he's kind of talking to Mila Kunis's character and Father Judd, and he's kind of saying, "Oh, I do this thing where I unweave the web of the thing, and then I do it," and then he's like, "It's really awesome." And then it gets to when that's meant to happen,
And he's
and
like,
he doesn't do it. And
no,
again, that's another risk because you're taking
yeah.
away one of the most satisfying like segments of these movies that we
Mm-hmm.
love.
You want to see that
But
montage of him already of piecing everything together and gone, right,
exactly.
that's happened, and this is the killer.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it
And he
doesn't.
points it out and he says the answer and you get that satisfaction. But
Mm.
he doesn't do it because he realizes that something bigger is
Mm-hmm.
at play here and that he doesn't like matter as much in this situation as the kind of preservation of kind of what he sees to be this broad community that needs to be healed, that
Mm-hmm.
needs to come together again, that's kind of been fragmented and broken over the years by Josh Brolin's character and by this myth that has been perpetuated by him about Eve's apple and all of that kind of
Yeah.
stuff, and through Glenn Close's character as well. And also throughout the film, he sees what like he comes to realize Father Judd's character and who he is as a
Yeah.
person and what he has the power to do.
Yeah. And he actually needs it more than Benoit Blanc needs that revelation. He's the one that needs
Absolutely.
to sort of get the community on his side almost and actually do
Yeah,
some good. Yeah.
exactly. 100%. Ends up being like more satisfying, I think,
Yeah.
because
No.
these characters, these like the Benoit Blancs, the kind of Miss Marples, the Poirots,
Arrows.
all of these kinds of characters that we kind of hold in such high regard are kind of not like they're not fallible because they always do the same thing. They always go in, they stitch themselves into the narrative, they get the clues, they come out, they work it out, they go back in, they go this and this, that's the killer, done, leave, go on to the next one. But this kind of gives him that fallibility of like, oh, like he has these kinds of morals and this is who he is as a person. Even though
Mm-hmm.
obviously he's a staunch atheist, and even at the end, when Father Judd invites him in
Yeah.
to go see his first sermon, he's like, "No, I'd rather do anything else than this." Uh, but it's just like getting to kind of see that side of his character and see him kind of go through that kind of inner turmoil of like, oh, I want to do this because this is what I always do, but
Mm-hmm.
actually, no, it's not the right thing to do in this moment. It's so good, and that's why Rian Johnson is like to me just so clever because it's just
So
something completely different.
putting your Benoit Blanc hat on, were you able to sort of solve the mystery as it went through, or did it sort of keep you guessing
But
throughout?
yeah, no. I'm when it comes to these kinds of things, I'm terrible. I have friends who will literally like see the first 5 minutes of a film like this and go, "So this person's the killer. This is how they did it," and I'm just like, "How? How did you do that?" Um, but I think I kind of like that. I'm kind of less inclined to
Yeah,
solve it
no,
because I
yeah.
feel like I can appreciate the journey more a little bit. How about you? Did you
I
kind of?
feel I feel like with these films, I try and solve it as I'm going through, and I come up with about 5 different scenarios, and they never any of them are ever right. So no,
And
no, I
this
didn't.
is arguably, I mean, they're all very twisty films.
Mm,
They all have like a kind of you think this is the answer. No, this actually isn't the answer. This is
No.
the answer. But this one takes it to like an extreme level. Like there are so many like turns and bits and bobs and people who are involved and who aren't involved, and like I really loved kind of the journey through it and then finding out exactly who it was that kind of masterminded it all.
Think I genuinely thought when is it Monsieur Wicks, the Josh Brolin's character,
Yeah, Monsignor
when
Wicks, yeah.
when the his tomb opened, I was just like,
Yes.
he's come back to life. It's
Me
real.
too! Genuinely. Well, that's the thing. Again, I think that's another thing about this film is that it kind of makes believers out of skeptics, right? It's like it shows you something and you're like, I'm convinced. But you shouldn't
That's not me in real life. I don't believe any of that kind of thing.
yeah.
But that happened in the film. I was like, that happened. He's alive.
Yeah,
Didn't
like
even think
like
that they'd swap the bodies over or anything like that.
in that moment you just genuinely believe it's a
Yeah,
miracle that has
yeah,
occurred.
definitely.
And again, that's another it's like a testament to kind of the build-up of the tension and the kind of the hints and the drops, because there's the scene where they're at where he's looking at where they're at the grave for the first time, and he's kind of explaining Sam the groundskeeper is
Hmm.
explaining how the door works, and about like how you can't open it from the outside, but if like one tap from the inside will open it and stuff.
Yeah,
And like those little hints and things that kind of lead up to those moments they're just so well threaded and so well thought of and so just ingrained into it. It's just perfect.
yeah. So I think this entry is definitely the darker of the three films.
Yeah.
Do you think going to that sort of tone compared to the others, do you think the tonal shift worked?
Yeah. No, I
It
think
gave
it
it something a
did.
little bit different, I feel.
Yeah. Because it's kind of weird. I feel like this is the first one that's really kind of properly lent into like a specific kind of genre
Hmm.
work.
Yeah.
It's very gothic, very kind of like small community, small spaces, the lighting. I mean, we'll talk about the lighting. The lighting is
Hmm.
phenomenal. I just
Yeah,
can't
speak on
even
it. Go for it.
begin.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just I don't think I've ever really. I mean, obviously, because I think again, it's kind of that thing of Rian Johnson subverting these expectations we have about the way this world works. Because we've had two films that are just straight up realism, not obviously not
Hmm.
kind of fully realism, but the world works how we expect it to work.
Yeah.
And then we come into this one and the lights are going crazy, and like when they're specifically when they're in the church quite
Hmm.
often, where some but the lighting then matches the mood of the
Hmm.
scene, or like if like when Benoit has kind of a moment of like kind of he's like thought of something or he's had like an
Yeah.
idea and the light kind of starts beaming behind him.
Hmm.
Like that's not that doesn't fit in at all with the way that the other two films work. But it's like I don't know. I'm just like I'm in love with it. Like it's just incredible. Yeah, kind of speechless about it. Just because I don't think I remember a film like at least very recently that has kind of played with lighting like that and kind
It
of
does. Yeah.
used it again, like I said, to kind of fit the mood.
I think having the settings it had, like you said, like you having the church where you can have the dark corners and these big windows that can offer that. And then even away from the church, you're spending time in like big wooded areas, with like openings, and you don't really see much outside of the church and that area really.
Yeah, yeah,
But he uses that setting very well, like you say, with push these lighting elements to the narrative for the narrative to sort of enable that. Cool. So, do you think then this was a successful third installment of this film overall?
oh yeah, no, 100%. I'm like all in. I want him to make 50 more of these films. Daniel Craig and Ryan Johnson need to work together for the rest of their lives and make a Muppets version as well at some point.
Make
Um,
a
yeah.
collaboration.
So where everybody apart from Benoit Blanc is a Muppet, I feel like that's a kind of natural progression. But I think the main thing for me that has kind of been solidified with this is that I don't feel like it's gonna get, like, what's the word? I don't think it's gonna get boring anytime soon. I think
Mhm.
what this installment has proven is that he is going to have a fresh take, a fresh kind of look on how to make these films every time, and it's going to look different, it's going to be different every time.
Mhm.
And I feel like because now he's kind of got comfortable with who Benoit Blanc is as a character,
Mhm.
that now he can kind of just start having fun with it and just kind of go to these places where you wouldn't expect, and use these kind of genres these kind of genre trappings that you wouldn't expect from these kinds of films necessarily. So
Okay.
yeah,
So I mean,
definitely.
let's go into the wider Knives Out franchise talk then. Go moving on from that. You've got Daniel Craig. Obviously, he's aging.
Yeah.
How many of these do you think he can potentially carry on, or do you reckon they'll eventually sort of phase him out, or can they move in a different direction?
As much, well, personally, I feel as though I think with roles like this, I mean, even compare it to James Bond, I think towards the end you could kind of tell that, I wouldn't say that he didn't care about it anymore, but you could kind of tell that he wasn't really having much fun with it anymore. I
Hmm.
think you could kind of look at him and go, he's ready for out now. He's kind of
You
ready to
mean
kind of
the character or Daniel Craig himself?
Daniel Craig, yeah, for with James Bond, yeah,
Oh,
I
right,
think
yeah, okay, yeah. Oh, sorry, I
yeah.
thought you meant Benoit Blanc. I was like, he's only
No,
just
no,
started.
absolutely not. Well, I think it's completely the opposite for this. So I think you can really tell that he's enjoying it and having fun. I think that him and Rian Johnson are great collaborators because, I
Hmm.
mean, obviously, I feel as though Daniel Craig is involved way more than just kind of turning up and, reading lines and stuff like that. I think Rian Johnson has kind of spoke about how creating Benoit has been such like a collaborative thing for the two of them.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think when you can kind of tell that they're still having fun with it and that they can still come up with ideas, then I can't see a world where they're not just going to carry on
Yeah.
doing it.
I mean, like we said about Wake Up Dead Man, is it doesn't rely on him as much, and I think that film has proven that actually they probably could move forward if they need to, with
Yeah,
Benoit Blanc having a smaller role in these, as long as the story's done right. Like Wake Up Dead Man, the story is there, and the
yeah.
characters are there for it to be told. So where do you rank so far? How do you rank these three films?
Gosh, well, I think kind of going into Wake Up Dead Man, I was like, there's no way, because it was always Knives Out top, Glass Onion second.
Mhm.
As much as I'm kind of like a Glass Onion defender, I love all of them equally, kind of. But I know that kind of for a lot of people, they felt as though Glass Onion was kind of a drop off from the first film. But then I came out of Wake Up Dead Man and I was like, I actually think this is my favorite one. I was like, damn, like, and that's a hard thing because Knives Out is just like I said before, it's the best. It's just so good. And you couldn't even
It's always
believe
hard to
that.
beat an original as well, isn't it?
Yeah, no, true. And you couldn't even believe. But then the more I've thought about it, I'm kind of like, actually, I think just from the perspective of everything, from the filmmaking to the character work to the way that it's constructed, the cinematography, the lighting, just everything, it just to me is definitely like
Mhm.
above the first Knives Out. So I would go Wake Up Dead Man, Knives Out,
No,
Glass
so
Onion.
so do you think then that Rian Johnson maybe learn because I feel like there's a lot more similarities between Wake Up Dead Man and Knives Out than
Mm,
there is Glass Onion. Do you feel like he's maybe with the reactions that Glass Onion? Because I enjoyed Glass Onion as well. It's a bit goofier. The characters are a bit more out there. They're a bit more
yeah,
social media, afide.
yeah, yeah,
Do you know what I mean? But do you think he maybe learned something from going from the first one to that and then going into this one?
yeah. I thought you were going to be like, has he learned anything from what people have said about these films? And I'm like, I think after The Last Jedi, he doesn't care. He just doesn't care at all. Like, he'll just do whatever he wants. And rightfully so, because that man has been through it.
Hmm.
I think so. I think that's what's so good as well is that he's kind of found this thing, and I know that think he might be doing an original film next. I went to his
Look.
talk at London Film Festival, and I can't remember,
Hmm.
I might just be making this up, but I'm pretty sure he said that he's, like, kind of working on something new or whatever, but I just think it's nice that he's kind of found this thing that actually people are kind of resonating with people, and people aren't just, like, down his throat all the time like they were with Star Wars. Wait, I feel like did he learn, the thing I think yeah, so the question about did he kind of learn anything
Yeah,
from
do
the
you think
first one
he's
as
come
opposed to
back to maybe something that he thought worked
Yeah,
better? That's yeah.
I think maybe because I think that Glass Onion kind of feels like a bit of a blockbuster version of
Hmm.
Knives Out, doesn't it? In terms of, like you said, that kind of scope. It feels broader. But I also feel like each film, again, going back to what I said towards the beginning, is that each film kind of matches the thing that it's trying to say about the real world. So with Glass Onion, it's that kind of like the danger of these rich billionaires running the world essentially, and kind of well, yeah, that's kind of the main point that I got from it anyway. And again, when that's kind of the main point that you're trying to make, I guess, it's going to be more lavish and big and kind of exaggerated. And again, it's kind of, I feel like Glass Onion's a lot more comic than the other two
Yeah,
as
no,
well.
yeah, it's definitely more goofy and less
Yeah.
serious.
And again, it's that thing of, because it's satirizing these people like that we know in real life, like Elon
Hmm.
Musk,
Hmm.
who are basically just these massive losers,
Hmm.
that it kind of feels right. It kind of feels right. Please, I
Don't
don't
don't cancel us.
don't cancel me. No, I'm sure that 90% of the people that are listening to this agree with us anyway. So, but yeah, it just feels like it matches what it's trying to say, and I guess the message, even though the Wake Up Dead Man message is kind of more, I mean, all of the messages are universal, but it feels like
Hmm.
especially so. There is like an intimacy that comes because the church is like in Wake Up Dead Man is like a microcosm
Yeah,
of America. It's like this thing that's happening to this little church is actually happening to
it's actually
all of
it's the
America right
broader
now.
the
Yeah,
broader
and I
picture.
think that's kind of similar with the first film. So yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say is I feel as though whatever has come and what will come
Hmm.
is very much based off what Rian Johnson is wanting to say with the film.
Yeah. So I mean, he can pretty much go because they're contained stories. He can pretty much go wherever he wants with it. Is there anything sort of that you might like to see a setting that would interest you? I know
That's
that's a
so
difficult question because it
interesting.
literally could be anything
Could be, yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's a bit
other than the
cliche, but
Muppets.
well, that one would be good. I mean, that's what everybody wants. Let's be honest. No, I kind of like the idea of I know it's cliche with a whodunit, but like a mode of transport. He's not really done that yet, like a boat or a train
A bit
or
like
something of
Death
the
on the
sort.
Nile
Bit
or an
like Death on the
Express, something
Nile.
like
Yeah,
that. Classic, yeah, yeah. No, yeah, I like that.
that could be fun. Kind of like one where he hasn't been brought into it; he kind of stumbles upon it.
Stumbles. I like that.
Maybe. I think that could be quite
Well, if there's
interesting.
someone sort of calling in, he's almost involved in it, but
Yeah,
then that'd be interesting.
yeah.
Wonder if they'd go down a route of him potentially becoming a suspect in some of these.
Maybe. Yeah. I think that unfortunately the hard thing is because and then he was actually talking about this in his
Hmm.
talk that he did for London Film Festival, where like the one thing that he said when he was kind of starting to come up with the ideas for these films is that he wanted it to be set like in the modern day.
Yeah.
Like, because Ali Plum, who was presenting it, one of his first questions was like, I mean, it's a very simple thing, but like, you're setting your films in a world where smartphones exist. And it's like
Hmm.
that makes things like so much easier. Like, obviously, with films that are set like where they're set like with Death on the Nile and Murder on the Orient Express, like
Yeah.
it's
Even
obviously like
you got no cameras, you got no news channels. It's all
exactly.
hearsay. Whereas, yeah, now it's well, we can work
So
that out.
yeah, so again, I think with it kind of does limit things a bit in terms of where these things can
Hmm.
be set. I was just thinking then, like if it's set on a train or something, like it's going to be hard because, I mean, you've got to kind of understand that there might be people who know who he is, that
Hmm.
there's people who have phones and laptops and all these different kinds of things that you would have to consider. But also, I completely trust that he's intelligent enough
Yeah.
to be able to come
I
up
mean,
with
that's
reasons
a
and
really
things
good
for that.
point, actually, because you look at what's been put in so far. You've got the first Knives Out, which is set between one family who want the same thing. They all want a part of that wealth, so that's not
Yeah,
going to go outside the family. You got a second one that's set on a remote island with no. He's almost said like there's no phones and signal and stuff like that, so you can't do any of that. And then this third one that's set in this little remote church village where
yeah,
people are idolizing this priest. So I
yeah,
didn't think of it like that. That the fact that because it's set in the modern world, that actually could be a little bit limited
yeah.
by what you can do.
I think you've brought up a really good point as well, in that I think all of these films have been very much to do with wealth and greed because,
Yeah,
you know, all of these kind of self-serving characters that, get their comeuppance at the end essentially. Although I think Wake Up Dead Man is a little bit different because, and again, another thing that makes it so good, I think, is that it's a little bit less cynical, I think, especially for the kind of cast of characters, because, with the first Knives Out, at the end, we're kind of, we're very happy that the family have lost out on the house and that they no longer have any of the wealth that they have been brought up on and fed through a silver spoon on. The second film, all of these characters who were trying to latch themselves to Edward Norton's character are
yeah.
all very self-serving and have all done terrible things. I mean, Kate Hudson's character is being cancelled doesn't want to be cancelled because she's like been using sweatshops, and
Yeah, yeah.
Dave Bautista's character wants to have a presenting role on like this right-wing news
Hmm.
casting broadcaster, all of that kind of
They
stuff.
want it. They want it all for nothing, don't they? They're expecting
Yeah,
of it from
exactly.
us.
And again, like that, they kind of in their way they all get their comeuppance. None of them get what they want. In the end of Glass Onion, they're all forced to testify against Edward Norton's character because he kind of has no leverage on them anymore.
Hmm.
And the same can be said for some of the characters in Wake Up Dead Man. I mean, Jeremy Renner's character dies. Obviously, Andrew Scott's.
Quite a brutal death in the end.
Yeah,
Jeremy
yeah.
Renner.
Very, very, very crucial. Very fun. It's that scene where the kind of the acid or whatever it was is
Hmm.
slowly
This is this
sinking
is
out of
what
the
it got
bath.
me, I think, because you got the priest hanging over, looking like he
Yeah,
drowned him, and I'm like, he was alive.
Glenn Close so strong, being able to
Yeah,
move Monsignor Wicks like that, dead
that's
a
true.
cadaver as well. Then again, the two that scene in the mortuary where the two like assistants like flip his body over on the
Yeah.
thing. That's so funny. No, yeah. So that scene where so good, where the kind of it slowly drips down
Hmm.
and then it kind of reveals his skeleton is crazy. Yeah, so and then Andrew Scott's character obviously kind of writes his book, but then all his fans are, how he describes them as the Big Lebowski characters. But I feel as though there are some characters who kind of come out kind of a bit unscathed, really, because they're kind of a
Hmm.
little bit more innocent. I mean, Daryl McCormack's character Cy, he obviously doesn't get access to the family's fortune, the Eve's apple,
Yeah,
the
when he
diamond.
kicks off at the end, love
Yeah,
love that bit.
and then Jeffrey Wright's like,
Yeah.
what a little dickhead or something. Yeah, so good. But again, like Kaylee Spaney's character doesn't quite get that same
No.
comeuppance. Her character, she's left and she's kind of been able to kind of wrestle with her faith and wrestle with her disability, and
Hmm.
has kind of worked, like as it says in the film, working out ways to kind of work with it rather than trying to will it away
Yeah.
through an act of God. And yeah, I just think, I don't know. Yeah, it is very different. But again, I think Judd represents something very different
Hmm.
than the rest of the franchise does. So I guess those kind of little those little things are a bit yeah.
Okay, one more thing then. Do you think that this franchise, and inevitably it will because it's Netflix, do you think it could work TV wise? Do you think it could work in a show?
No.
I
I'm
wouldn't like it to, but it is a Netflix product at the end of the
yeah.
day.
Yeah, no, true. And you know they're gonna beat a dead horse if they can. Not that this is a dead horse, but they're gonna take something successful and ruin it, which is what they do with everything.
Mm,
No, I don't think it would, simply because the way that the Netflix model works, where it just like drop all at once, I just think,
yeah,
yeah,
they'd have to
I'm
change
just,
that, wouldn't they? But then a lot of other companies are, Disney Pluses and Paramounts and stuff like that.
yeah, Apple
They're all going
TV
towards that
does.
weekly release date. So
I don't think
could.
Netflix would ever
No.
do that, though. To be honest, I think as well, what the satisfaction comes from having it all in that one little burst. I think, and I'm not sure. And plus, I feel as though Rian Johnson's kind of done his foray into TV whodunit. It's not really a whodunit, but Poker Face
Hmm.
with Natasha Lyonne. Well, not
Yeah.
Natasha Lyonne anymore, but uh, yeah. So I think he would probably want to keep it as films, and I think I would like that as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. So then, your final thoughts then on the Knives Out franchise and Wake Up Dead Man?
I think it's incredible. I think it's just such a wonderful trio of films that all
Hmm.
have their own strengths, and and even though they're part of of one whole, they all feel like they say and stand for very different things.
They all feel like combine their own confined stories, their own
Yeah,
thing. They're not trying to create a narrative between them, which is nice
exactly.
for once.
Yeah. For yeah, for oh my god, it's a miracle. Literally. Yeah, so I feel like also just finally one thing we didn't mention was Glenn Close properly,
Hmm.
because Glenn Close was amazing in this film. From
Yeah,
the way that she was introduced, where she's like hiding, the little Glenn Close hiding behind Josh O'Connor's body and just
like a
kind
little
of
old lady. Yeah.
just kind of pops out to the side, which is just so hilarious. And I think that happens a couple of times
Hmm.
in like the first act of the film, through like the bits of like kind of just comedy that come out of her like ignorance and just pure like kind of naivety about the world beyond her faith. Like the bit where Kaylee Spaney stands up to pick up a drink off the
Yeah, it's
table
just
and she's like, oh! And it's like, she can walk, it's not in a wheelchair. Like, all the way to obviously that final moment where she is just phenomenal,
hmm
where she's kind of confessing the crime to Josh O'Connor's character. She's just incredible. She's always been incredible, and I would love to see her in more things like she is in this. So yeah, absolutely brilliant. But overall, amazing, and
amazing.
we'll take 10 more of them. Thank you very much.
Definitely. So you can watch Wake Up Dead Man. It is now on Netflix. So please go and like, rate, and subscribe to this podcast. You can find it on all major platforms. You can find more of our work at filmfocusonline.com. Find us on all socials at Film Focus Online. Alex's socials is @PresenterAlec.
That's correct.
Please join us next time for more great film discussions. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.
Bye.